Do you want to take photos that are perfectly exposed every time? Even photos or videos of yourself? If yes, then great, because in this video I'll explain how to get perfectly exposed images every time, no matter what the lighting conditions. You just need a grey card and the light meter on your camera. Now, cameras see the world differently to the way that we do. The main difference, at least for this video, is that they have a more limited dynamic range. They can't register all the tones, from the darkest blacks to the brightest whites. So they assume that the perfect exposure is around the middle, or the average brightness of the scene. Most of the time that works fine, but not always. For instance, if I stand in front of a bright window, because the scene has got a lot of bright tones in it, the average brightness is quite high, and the camera's light meter thinks that the exposure needs to be reduced, resulting in me being silhouetted against a bright background. Another example is if I stand in front of a dark background, like this black fence. The light meter averages the tones, and this time it thinks that the scene is too dark, and consequently bumps up the exposure. This time my face is overexposed, and again detail is lost in my face. That idea of averaging the tones in the scene is actually very useful. It turns out that when I correctly expose for the scene, the average reflectance across all colours in the scene and under any type of lighting is about 18%. We perceive that as being about halfway between black and white, and consequently is called middle grey, or 18% grey. I'll show you what I mean. I took this correctly exposed image in a play park. Now, when I take that image and put it into Photoshop and get the program to average the luminance tones, I get this grey image. Because the original image was correctly exposed by the camera, this average version is effectively middle grey, or 18% grey. We can use this, or at least a commercial version of it, as a reference when taking photos and videos. This is a small grey card, and this in the middle is the same grey as the middle grey we got when we averaged the brightness in that play park photo. I also have a foldable grey card, which is the one that I actually use most of the time because it appears larger in the scene when I'm taking a photo. Now that you've got a grey card, you can use it to set the exposure on your images, and it's actually quite simple to do. First, switch to manual mode on your camera so that you can access the light meter. To activate the camera's light meter, half press the shutter button. On my Canon EOS R6, the light meter is at the bottom of the display between the aperture and ISO settings. The graduated scale goes from -3 to +3 in 1/3 stop increments. If the current exposure is within that -3 to +3 range, you will see a vertical line below the scale indicating the current exposure. But if the exposure is outside of that -3 to +3 range, an arrow will be displayed on the left or right of the scale indicating whether the exposure is below -3 or above +3. So let's move on. To get the scene correctly exposed, we want it, or at least part of it, to match middle grey. We can then use that to set the exposure. That's where the grey card comes in. Place the grey card in front or beside your subject so that it's illuminated in the same light as the light that illuminates your subject. If you're using evaluative exposure metering, try to fill the frame with the grey card. Otherwise, use spot metering and place the focus point on the grey card. Now half press the shutter button to activate the light meter and adjust the shutter speed until the little bar is at the center of the scale. Your exposure is now set to middle grey, so remove the grey card and take your correctly exposed shot. It also works on non-human subjects. Here's the grey card on some apparatus in a play park. I'm in evaluative metering mode this time, so I'll fill the frame as much as I can with the grey card. adjust the shutter speed until the indicator line is at 0 on the light meter, then take away the grey card and take the shot. You can even use a grey card when you want to appear in the photo or video. What you need to do is place a light stand where you're going to be standing and attach the grey card to the light stand. I use a photography clamp, but you can use some tape or whatever works for you. Now, half press the shutter button to activate the light meter and adjust the exposure until the line is in the center of the scale. To take the shot, set a shutter delay or use a remote shutter release. Now go and stand where the light stand and grey card were, and you should have a perfectly exposed image or video. Thanks for watching, but can I ask a small favor? Please like, share and subscribe if you found this video useful, and to make sure you don't miss any of my new videos, hit that notification bell. I wish you well and look forward to seeing you again next time.